Python Ftplib optimal block size? I'm using Python's Ftplib to transfer lots and lots of data, 100 files x 2 GB, across a local network to an FTP server. This code is running on Ubuntu. Here is my call, self is my client object, which is a wrapper around Ftplib client. My question is, how do I choose an optimal block size? My understanding is that the optimal block size is dependent on a number of things, not the least of which are connection speed and latency. My code will be running on many different networks with different speeds and varying amounts of congestion throughout the day. Ideally, I would like to compute the optimal block size at runtime. Would the optimal FTP transfer block size be the same as the optimal TCP window size? If this is true, and TCP window scaling is turned on, is there a way to get the optimal TCP window size from the kernel? How/when does the Linux kernel determine optimal window size? Ideally, I could ask the Linux kernel for the optimal block size, so as to avoid reinventing the wheel.
This is an interesting question, and I had to dive in a bit deeper. Smile. Anyway, here is a good example how to determine them2, this URL. But, you should also think about the following. them2 is something that is a local phenomena and maybe regards only a part of your local network. What you think about is the path them2, the minimum 2 over the complete transport path. This URL, so, you'll have to know every them2 of every involved component. This can be a problem. For example, if you're using jumbo frames and a switch not, the switch have to split the frames. I already had the problem that a switch did not understand jumbo frames and dropped the frames. Now the most interesting question, the optimal block size. A lot of Python functions take arguments like block size or chunk size. But they don't address the block size of the underlying transport protocol. The block size defines a reading buffer that will contain the data to be send/read. The standard size in Ftplib is 8K, 8192 bytes. So, adjusting the block size should not really affect the speed of the transfer. Controlling them2 of the underlying transport protocol is something that will be handled by the operation system and its kernel. Finally, some words about FTP. FTP is an old dinosaur which is easy to set up and use, but also is not always the best method to transfer files. Especially if you transfer a lot of small files. I don't know exactly your use case, so thinking about other transfer protocol alternatives like Sync or BBCP could make sense. The latter seems to increase the copy speed drastically. You really should have a look at this URL. Just my 2 cents.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.